13 actual great mobile MMORPGs. That's what we're gonna talk about today, my friends, and many of these picks actually came directly from you guys, so thank you very much for all the awesome suggestions over on that community post. And yes, I am aware that no genre is as divisive as mobile MMORPGs, with some preferring old school slow-paced combat experiences and others looking for autoplay MMORPGs that can just play in the background while you're working or studying. So I've included a bit of both types today, alongside some old, some newer, and some lesser known games that you may not have tried yet in this breakdown of what I consider to be the very best mobile MMORPGs as of 2022. And as always, there's a bunch of relevant links down in the description box, and remember, you can of course find lots more great games over on my very own games discovery platform, Mina Review. Now I wanna kick us off today by highlighting a game that I think is often forgotten about in these types of videos, called Toram Online. Like many games mentioned today, Toram isn't exactly brand new anymore, but it remains one of the very best old school MMORPGs in mobile, and it also very recently even released on Steam, so you can now play cross-platform as well. One of the absolute best things about Toram is the complete freedom we have in building our character, since there are no predefined classes and no professions. So that means we can equip any weapon and focus on any of the many skills to achieve a playstyle that we prefer. Another great system that I haven't really seen in other MMORPGs is that if none of your friends are online, you can even borrow a mercenary version of one of your friend's characters to join you in some party PvE grinding, which I think is a great way to make the game a bit more casual friendly. And if you're more into questing than epic boss fights, there are also a ton of storylines to explore in Toram, which is one of the advantages of this not being a brand new game. The monetization systems are mostly focused on visuals such as avatars, and it doesn't hinder or ruin the free-to-play experience, making Toram Online an easy recommendation for any fan of MMORPGs without all those auto systems. If you want something that looks slightly fancier and is way newer though, you might want to check out Black Desert Mobile. Unlike Toram Online, this one is much more focused on autoplay, and although you can't play it cross-platform, the mobile version does have a bit of that same feel that the very popular PC version of the game offers. It looks great, combat feels pretty neat, with each ability really packing a punch, and it of course features all the usual stuff like quests, boss fights, PvP arenas, 5 character classes, and hundreds of hours of content to dive into. There is a premium cash shop in this game though, which means that paying players have a pay-to-progress fast advantage, but if you enjoy 3D autoplay MMORPGs, this is absolutely one of the best within its genre. But much more recently, I've also seen some of you guys talk highly of Lineage 2 Mobile, not to be confused with Lineage 2 Revolution by the way, so although I haven't played it myself, it seems to be a decent autoplay MMORPG alternative to Black Desert Mobile. Now I hope you guys are ready, and I've got you a bit warmed up, because this next one really isn't for the faint of heart. In fact, Teon might just be the most hardcore MMORPG I'll cover today. It is extremely old school, both in gameplay and its art style, but due to its $10 per month subscription, there is no pay to win whatsoever in this game, making the PvP experience completely fair and competitive. And it definitely is a very PvP focused MMORPG, unlike most of the other ones we're going to talk about today, and frankly most other MMORPGs on mobile. The two biggest issues are that the English translation isn't the best, and that the game has had some pretty severe issues with bots in recent years. But still, its incredibly unique gameplay and large open world makes it a one-of-a-kind experience that some players absolutely love. And as a bit of a quick bonus game here, if you enjoy these very unique MMORPGs, you might also want to check out Dofu's Touch, which is something as strange as an MMORPG with a turn-based combat system. Much like Teon, this is a game made for a very particular type of player, but if that's you, you'll most likely love it. Now, I'm only including massively multiplayer games today, by the way, so a game like Genshin Impact, for example, can't be included, although the gameplay is admittedly very similar to some actual MMORPGs. And I've also made the tough decision to leave out all text-based MMOs like Titan Conquest, Cybercode Online, and Lost Vault, so maybe I'll have to give those games a dedicated video someday. And talking about massive MMORPGs, it would be almost impossible for me to make this video without mentioning Albion Online. This game is cross-platform, has been out on PC since 2017, and is estimated to have over 100,000 daily players. In many ways, it plays a bit like RuneScape in the sense that you truly are what you wear in Albion, since there are no classes or races here. It's also the type of game where you have tons of different gathering, crafting, farming, and combat skills to level up, such as mining and fishing, and just like in RuneScape, this leads to a very active player-driven economy. Where Albion really sets itself apart though is in its focus on large-scale PvP battles. But although the combat system is a bit more slow-paced than say Black Desert Mobile, these are a bit difficult to properly participate in on mobile due to the touch controls. So if you dive into Albion on mobile, you might want to focus on PvE, crafting, and trading, and then leave the hardcore PvP battles to be played on a PC. Despite paying players being able to sell premium currency for in-game silver, Albion is actually generally considered to have a good monetization system that doesn't hinder free-to-play players from enjoying the game. So I wouldn't advise staying away from the game just because of the monetization system if you like what you're hearing about its gameplay. Another cross-platform MMORPG that I feel deserves a mention here is AdventureQuest 3D, which has all the usual MMORPG features like parties and crafting, but also doesn't take itself all too seriously, which is honestly just refreshing. It has a very friendly community, nice events, and a humorous, although not exactly groundbreaking, storyline. I think the game is perfect for anyone who enjoyed the old AdventureQuest browser games, and also provides a unique experience for newcomers to the franchise that don't mind grinding and enjoy this retro art style. The combat system in this game isn't exactly as exciting or fast-paced as in some MMORPGs, but the gameplay is great fun and very nostalgia-filled, which I think is why it deserves a spot here. In terms of what sets this game apart from the other MMORPGs mentioned today, it has several character classes that you unlock and can use on the same character as you progress, and the very active development team has been providing updates and improving this game for ages already, which has fostered an active and tightly knit community. And combined with a relaxed monetization system mostly focused on cosmetic items, this makes the game a great pick if you're looking for something unique and different to play. Next up is a game that you might not have expected to see recommended by me, called Sword Art Online Integral Factor. And let me just preface by saying that this game does have a gacha system for equipment and skills, but it's also one of the few MMORPGs that really threw me back to my PC MMORPG days, where I just loved running around to explore a world while teaming up with friends for dungeon raids. And that's basically what Integral Factor offers, so I kinda had to include it today. And also, there are no auto systems, which I personally really like, as it makes the game feel all the more active and engaging. The game definitely is somewhat pay to win, at least more so than most of the games we're gonna talk about today, but the combat, the neat animations, and the fun gameplay still makes it a great overall MMORPG experience. And as long as you don't expect to participate in endgame PvP, you can easily enjoy this game as a free player. It also features plenty of quests and most of the usual MMORPG systems to dive into, so if you don't mind the anime-inspired art style, I would say this one is definitely worth considering checking out. If you want to influence future videos like this one, by the way, then hit subscribe and keep your eyes glued on that community tab, because that's where I post to get recommendations and input from you guys before making future videos like this one. The 7th game is RuneScape, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that there's a very slim chance you haven't at least heard of this one before, as it has over 200 million registered players and at least 500,000 daily players, with around 100,000 players online at any time of the day. And for good reason, in my opinion, because RuneScape is absolutely fantastic if you want complete freedom over how to develop your character and you're looking for a game to waste thousands of hours on without ever running out of content. Just like in Albion Online, you've got lots of gathering, crafting, and combat skills to level up, and probably the most active player-driven economy of any MMORPG out there. It's also cross-platform on mobile and PC, and the community in this game is just fantastic. And I gotta warn you, if you haven't played this game already, the combat system might seem simple, but the endgame PvP is notoriously fast-paced, which is awesome, but it also means it's almost too hectic for mobile. So you might just want to focus on PvE and simple PvP when playing on a smartphone. One of the most unique aspects of RuneScape, though, is their questing system, where each quest feels like its own small mini-adventure, unlike most MMORPGs where, let's be honest, questing often consists of simply fetching items or killing a certain amount of monsters. The free-to-play experience of RuneScape easily takes hundreds, if not thousands of hours to play through, while the full game world and all skills require a monthly $11 subscription. You will also find a few cosmetics and loot boxes that provide slight pay-to-progress fast advantages, but overall, this game is incredibly free-to-play friendly. Next up is Villagers and Heroes, which is a cross-platform MMORPG that dates all the way back to 2011 that is still doing strong on mobile and feels a bit like RuneScape set in the AdventureQuest 3D universe. It's also a game that just won't die because it keeps popping up in my Reddit threads and YouTube comment sections, so I know that quite a few of you fine folk really love this game. In many ways, Villagers and Heroes is a bit of a weird mix of different subgenres of MMORPGs, because we've got a class-based combat system like we know from traditional MMORPGs, but a progression system focusing on leveling up various villager skills, much like in Albion and RuneScape. And if you grind long enough, you can eventually level up everything in the game. One of the game's biggest claims to fame is that there's very little pay to win in it, but the disadvantages are that it is very grindy, progression is slow, and the game isn't as active as it once was. But to be fair though, it still receives plenty of updates, and the community enjoys the classic relaxing MMORPG experience it provides, which is why I think it deserves a mention here. Now, there's actually another game I gotta mention here as well, called Celtic Heroes, which was another great similar game, but it didn't make the cut today because the developer unfortunately isn't focusing on the game anymore. I do also want to give a quick shout out to Arcane Legends, which was one of the earliest made-for-mobile MMORPGs, and one that it seems you guys are still really enjoying as well, so it gets a mini recommendation here from my end. Since you're still here, by the way, I hope you're up for leaving a like to boost this video in the YouTube algorithm, and now, onto the next game. IdleOn is definitely one of the most unique games I'm gonna share today, because it's a mostly idle 2D open-world side-scrolling indie MMORPG that really embraces the autoplay aspect. But that is actually where it starts to get interesting, because the autoplay doesn't mean that there's nothing for us to do though, because the game allows allows us to create, play, and manage multiple characters at once, which is something I've just frankly never seen before. And it creates this super unique experience where you'll be jumping from character to character so that a few of them are constantly gathering resources that we can then use to craft items for our combat-focused character so we can defeat stronger monsters. And while it may not seem like much, the game is generally very well received with some of the highest ratings of any of today's MMORPGs on both Steam, Google Play, and the App Store. Player-to-player interaction is somewhat limited in IdleOn, and it's kinda on the edge of what I'd still consider a massively multiplayer game, but it is incredibly unique and just perfectly made for busy mobile players, so it's an easy recommendation from my end. The monetization system is also very fair because although it does allow you to buy some in-app purchases that let you progress faster and gain a few extra bank and inventory slots, there is no PvP in this game. It's purely PvE focused, so free players are never truly impacted by paying players. And as yet another quick bonus game, if you love indie MMORPGs, you might also want to check out Rucoy Online, which is super lightweight and has a decent player base for an indie MMORPG. And then of course I've got to include my favorite MMORPG of all time, old school RuneScape. Cross-platform, sandbox world, complete freedom over how to develop our skills and character, a massive player base, and arguably more content and activities than any other MMORPG on mobile. This is why I love old school RuneScape. The player-driven economy plays an important role as well though, as almost every item or resource is bought and sold between players for in-game gold on the Grand Exchange, which is always incredibly active. And for the longest time, I almost played this game entirely as a stock market where I would just buy low and sell high on the Grand Exchange. As any true retro MMORPG, PvE combat is rather slow-paced, focusing primarily on repeated standard attacks using various bows, mage staves, or melee weapons. Fighting other players though is incredibly hardcore as it includes frequent fast-paced weapon switching and perfect timing to win over your opponents. Old school RuneScape monetizes through an $11 monthly subscription that also, by the way, gets you access to the newer RuneScape game, which unlocks the full game world, lots of new quests and items, and a few additional skills to engage in. I gotta say though that the free-to-play experience of old school RuneScape is probably the best of any MMORPG out there, with thousands of hours of content to dive into, even as a free player, so I wouldn't let that subscription model hold you back from at least trying the game. So there you have it, a bunch of awesome MMORPGs that I think are all worthy of a download. But let me know what you thought about today's games and which games you think I missed in the comment section down below. Subscribe for much more mobile gaming goodness, and then until next time, just keep gaming, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys around.